Say a little bit more now.
Hello, hello, hello. I don't know what I'm going to say. I hope I cover everything. So I want them I want to clarify, explain in an easy, understanding way. Encourage, don't discourage. Be detailed, factual, but not boring. It's not an exciting topic, but it's necessary to cover. Why? Because many people might be afraid of how to clarify the ownership of their ancestral homes. It's very messy. How did I do it? Well, I need to, there's several points. I need my pen. How do I? So first is, sorry. Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. So I hope some of you have watched enough episodes to know that, renovating your ancestral home is not an impossible task. It's actually quite doable. And it can be quite fun and adventurous, as I found out. There's so many things you can learn about not only your family's history, but your own culture, such as feng shui beliefs. But there's something that I have actually avoided doing, which is an episode on paperwork. All the paperwork that goes into making sure the ownership of the house is clarified, so that when you're pouring so much money into it, you feel reassured in some way that, nobody's going to challenge you once the house is all fixed up. So this is not an exciting episode that we're doing now, but I feel like it's very necessary. I'm sorry, it's my dog under the sofa making a lot of noise. He likes to sit right under me. So I'm in my Hong Kong home, and I feel like I need to talk about the paperwork, because I think some of you hopefully might be inspired to somehow prove your rights to your ancestral home. Not necessarily own it, but at least prove your relationship to your ancestors so that you have some say-so over the house. And so I want to help all of you by sharing with you how I did it. So, and it was such a long process, it's a 4-year long process that I actually had to take notes to make sure I don't digress and make sure I tell you all the important points. So, one of the things that I want to share with you is the first hurdle. The first hurdle is convincing your relatives that your project is worth pursuing, that they should work with you to clarify the ownership of the house. So for our family, the house was under my grandmother's name. Well, it used to be under my grandfather's name on my dad's side. And then after he passed away, the title was transferred to my grandmother and my grandparents' 5 children, which includes my dad and his 4 sisters. So, but in 2022, when I decided to clarify ownership of the house, only 3 of the siblings, my dad's siblings, were still alive. My dad and 1 other sibling had already passed away. So, and my grandmother had already passed away. So, but that still meant I had to get 13 family members to be involved and to cooperate with me. So we decided that, my sisters and I decided that we would be the ones to be managing the house. And it might sound like we're very, greedy or something, but actually it was meant to be, because my father was the only son, and we're not so traditional that we think the daughters don't have any rights. That's not true. It's just that the daughters had never wanted the house. They always saw it as my dad's house. So my grandmother wanted to be fair and put all the kids under all the kids' names under in the deed. But it actually created a lot of mess, which I think in hindsight she probably kind of regrets as well, because it made things so much more difficult. But anyway, so what I had to do was convince 13 people, the 5 kids who were survivors of my eldest aunt who had passed away, and her husband had passed away. So 5 cousins, and then my dad's side, which is my mom and my 4 sisters, so another 5 people, that's 10 people. And then the 3 surviving aunts, so that's 13 people. Now the 3 surviving aunts can actually decide for themselves what to do with the house. Their spouses don't have to be involved because they're still alive, and their kids don't have any say because they're still alive. So that made it simpler in some ways. So what I had to get 13 people to do was go to the notary offices and sign papers relinquishing their rights, or seeking to inherit the house, or seeking to have the ownership passed on to them. So for my 4 sisters, that's what we did. Me and my 4 sisters, we had the ownership passed on to us. We signed papers saying we want to manage the house for the family. For the other people in the family, they signed papers saying they relinquished their rights. They didn't want the house anymore. So now, all these papers, I wrote, all these letters I wrote on my own. But actually, initially, we were told that there was this agency in Oakland, Chinatown, that could help us. And in fact, I called the agency several times, and they said, oh yeah, we have a partner in Guangdong who can get all the paperwork done for you, and it costs like a few $100s per document, and we can all sort it out for you. But I'm so glad in the end I decided against using them, because I was suspicious, and I had called them several times, and every time I called them, they would give me a different answer. So it became very clear to me they had no idea what they were doing. They didn't know how to get this done. And then later on, a relative told me that they had seen posters in Chinatown saying that this agency had cheated them, cheated people. So they make promises, but they don't keep them. In hindsight, I'm so glad we didn't hire them, because I would have had to spend so much more money. They charge a few $100, $200, I think, for every document they write up for you. And then there's other charges for submitting the documents, authentication, notarization. It would have been a huge amount of money. Now, for me, so what I did was I took what was like a sample letter, and I just, with my limited Chinese, I had enough Chinese to know how to type. I wrote up the documents. You have to put in everyone's name, full name, official name, birth date, and also their relationship to the original owners, and then the house number, the house address, the house deed numbers. So all that has to be in the document. So I didn't know at the time that actually the Chinese consulate's website have sample documents on relinquishing rights and other things, inheriting property. So I should have actually used their documents to save myself trouble, but I still would have to add a lot of information on the family. So basically, I convinced all 13 family members to go to, well, except one, all 12 family members to go to the local notary offices. Now, these family members live in different cities in Northern California, and one of them lived in Toronto, Canada. So with the ones who lived in California, I had them scheduled notary appointments for them, sometimes at the bank that they use, because that would be free. And we got them to sign everything, showing their driver's license in front of a notary. And after that, I had to send their documents to the Secretary of State in California to get the documents authenticated. And back then, in 2022, 23, and most of 2024, I even had to take an extra step, which is after the documents came back from the Secretary of State's office, I had to take those and mail them to the San Francisco Chinese consulate to authenticate them. So I'll show you how one sample looks. So this is the Secretary of State's authentication. There's a stamp right here, and then we had to get the Chinese consulate to authenticate them. So after authenticating, this is a death certificate for one of the relatives. They would put a green stamp on it, like that. So only then will the local government in Zhongshan or wherever in China accept these notarized documents. Okay, so each authentication by the California Secretary of State costs $25 US. Each authentication from the Chinese consulate also costs money. I think it's around the same, $25 US. So the whole thing added up with 13 relatives, and I also made some mistakes. I didn't know. The mistakes I made, oh my gosh. Some of them I didn't specify clearly enough in the letter that, for instance, that my grandparents didn't have any other kids. That has to be stated, that they have no other children. There were other things that very, very nitpicky things. To me, a bit nitpicky, but I shouldn't say that. It has to be very official. So I had to do all that, and I would guess I spent at least $2,000 altogether. Now, it was frustrating for my sisters because I was still learning about how to do this. So there were some points where I had to get them to go back to the notary and actually sign new letters, revised letters. So it's very frustrating for everybody. So I'm sharing this with you because I don't want you to make the same mistakes I made. I want it to be easier process for you. Okay. I forgot to mention, I actually have a very good friend here behind the camera, Tin Van. Tin Van, yeah, who's actually filming this for me, and she asked very good questions earlier. So I'm hoping she would ask me questions now as well, because it's so hard for me to remember what to say.
So going back to the death certificate, that's in Chinese, right?
So, okay, I'm glad you brought that up. So the death certificates are issued by the California various city governments, because death certificates, my relatives were all in the U.S. Okay. So I'm assuming some of my viewers also are Chinese Americans in the U.S. and just mind boggle at how to do this. So the thing to do is make sure you get death certificate from, I think, the county recorder's office, not the county health department. The Secretary of State in California only accepts death certificates from, I think, the county registrar or county recorder's office. You have to read their website. You can find the website like California State by looking at their Secretary of State's office and the notary section. So this is called apostille. Apostille is like authentication, and on the website they tell you exactly what to do. Yeah, so that's what I did. So I think I've covered. Let's see, I'm gonna use a pen to cross out. Do you see my pen anywhere? Oh, a white pen. Yeah, here. Okay, sorry. So the whole thing took me about 4 years, from 2022 to 2025, and many trips to the notary office, many letters mailed to the California Secretary of State, and also the Chinese consulate in San Francisco. I also had to make a trip to pick up all the authenticated documents. But that's not the hardest part. The hardest part was actually just figuring out what to put in the letters and all the details that have to go into the letters. So I think you can hire someone to do that for you, but you would have to supply all the passports of all your family members. And some of them didn't have up-to-date passports, or some of their passports expired before the whole process was completed. So I had to get new passport, submit their new passport photocopies, and also have them sign letters saying their old passport and the new passport are of the same person. That's what the Chinese consulate demanded from us. So the good news is, I think in late 2024, China signed an international convention, an agreement, which negated the process of getting authentication from the Chinese consulate. So right now, since I think late 2024, November 2024, you can take the documents from the Secretary of State, wherever state you live in, and submit those directly to the local government where your ancestral home is. Now, the local government will not accept anything in a foreign language that's not translated. So you would have to hire a designated translator, designated by the local government, to have them, actually just a licensed translator, to translate your US English documents. So the thing to do to avoid too many translations is to have all your letters relinquishing rights or inheriting the property written in Chinese. So the only thing you have to translate are these simple words that are all the same, like on the apostille. That's all you need to translate. So translations are not expensive, but be careful. Some of the translators can be sloppy. They made some mistakes in our translations. I had to double check and triple check and have them correct the mistakes, especially on spellings of English names. They seem to kind of like just, drop the ball sometimes on getting the names correctly spelled. Yeah. So
What's in the letter that's written in Chinese?
okay, so the letters have to state that this property is currently under so and so's name, and I so and so do not want to have any rights to it anymore. I want to relinquish my rights. Now, here's the thing: it's very, very tricky because once somebody's name is on the document, they actually cannot 弃权, which is relinquish their rights, because they already have rights. They have to like sell or give their property to a niece or nephew or their kids. So by the Chinese government does not have an inheritance tax. So if like my father passed away, so we directly inherit his portion. Because the house is under so many names, I cannot inherit my aunt's version because I'm not a direct descendant. So she had to give, or the ones who passed away, the ones who are still alive, she had to give it to us as a gift. And there's a tax involved. So it's actually a hefty tax. There's all kinds of taxes involved. There's no property taxes in China, but there are taxes on giving property or receiving property as gifts. So a lot of Chinese people get around that by actually not having their names on the titles. So that brings me to a very important point, which is the way we got around paying all these taxes, including one called 土地出让金, which is a land lease tax. So because in China after 1949, all the land technically belongs to the country, to the nation. So even though my grandparents bought the land before 1949, we still, my great-grandparents bought the land actually before 1949, it's still not considered ours. We only have rights to use, to put the house there and use it. So in China, you don't have property taxes, but when you transfer title, transfer rights of the house, you have to pay this 土地出让金 land lease tax, and it's huge. For our property, if I remember correctly, our property based on market value, which is 4,000 to 6,000 RMB per square meter, and we have about 92 square meters. It would have cost us 50,000 to 70,000 US dollars to pay this 土地出让金 to transfer title to our names. So what we did was second best option, which is since everyone had relinquished their rights, the property naturally falls to 5 sisters, me and my 4 sisters. And because the one aunt who was not in the US, who was in Toronto, through a court mediation that the court in Zhongshan very, very professionally carried out. It was done through 2 time zones, and my aunt stayed up. She was very nice. She stayed up till 1 a.m. doing this, and the court staff even missed part of their lunch break helping us finish the court mediation. She didn't want to go to notary